let's get into the main event, guys. So itinerary, I think this is a really key one. We tend to go chronological with webinars, seems logical, but also it keeps me on the straight and narrow. But how to, conduct this new vacancy briefing with hiring manager. And I think the challenge there can often be that the hiring manager is the data subject expert. They know more about, I don't know, water hygiene engineers or something than you do, because that's what they used to be and that's what they've done in their career for the last 30 years. That creates an imbalance. We'll talk about how to manage that. Then we're going to make sure hiring managers are engaged and happy, and they want to source applicants from their own networks. Can you get them to the point where they can reach out and help you, do some recruitment? But it's got to be super easy and efficient, because let's be honest, that's not one of their KPIs. Did you manage to find the persons for your own roles? No, that's the recruiters or the HR person's job, they probably think. And they're probably right for the most part. Okay, and then we need to think about interview process. How do we get that nice and professional? We've got some good ideas on that. And then using technology, not necessarily AI, but there's a little tiny bit of AI in here, but more broadly technology to benchmark the recruitment performance of your hiring managers. Because like anything, the more daylight you can put on these things, the greater chance you've got of actually seeing improvements, because people feel like, oh, I've got to do the work now. Yeah. So Chloe has said on the chat, they see so many fake profiles on the tech side. This is going back to the survey question. Where I've seen the worst issues and people using AI to complete tasks. Yeah. So next week's webinar, unfortunately, it's not on the website, because I only decided yesterday to run a webinar on the 23rd of December. My birthday is the 22nd. I will have a moderate hangover, but we are going to run a webinar on the 23rd of December because we haven't really seen a slowdown. We had an amazing sign-up rate for this webinar. I think it will be less people interested in the webinar next week, but there will be one on our website later today. And it is about the AI-enabled candidate. It might be interesting for you, Chloe, about how to build assessments, how to manage that process, how to talk about your AI, what AI you're allowed to use in the recruitment process. So that's going on the website next week. Oh, sorry, later today. So that might be useful, and we'll make sure we share it when we send out the link and the recording. If you're still around on the 23rd, you're not having a mad dash around the shops to get those last presents. So the biggest obstacle to any change you want to make to your organization is this, and this is for every single department. It's not just for recruitment, clearly, but that's how I've always done it. And we've deliberately used a Fred Flintstone type approach there to say that's the sort of Neanderthal approach. It's probably not historically correct, but the Neanderthal approach to, to this is people are ingrained in a process of how they've always done things, and that's what they're used to. So how are we going to tackle that? So let's start with the end in mind. What do we want that end result to be? Okay, so there's plenty of research on this area. There's a good study from 2013 that showed, the more interactions you have with hiring managers, the more they're high quality interactions, it builds trust. I'm just going to briefly cough because I have got a cold. Okay, the quality of the interactions was obviously correlated to manager accepting your recommendations. I don't know whether you have pushback at the moment from hiring managers, whether they feel like they know better, they want to go their way, they want to do it their way. Sometimes you might be just better off sometimes letting them do it their way and letting them fail a little bit if need be, assuming if it's not massively affecting you. And it's probably worth the learning exercise sometimes to say, well, let's do it your way for 2 weeks, do it my way for 2 weeks and see what the difference is. Okay, taking high quality notes, more likely to have recommendations set by the managers. So the high quality notes, I did say I'm not going to talk about AI a lot, but that would be, and I'll show you one little trick on that as well. High quality notes would be turning on AI transcription if possible. Yeah, when you're talking, maybe you do the meeting via Teams. I'm sure that you do that a lot, but maybe you might say, I'm going to try and avoid doing it face to face. I don't need to be there face to face. And then I get a really good transcription. I get really good notes from it. I can send it back to the manager saying, okay, so as per our meeting, this is what we're going to agree. Okay. Now, one of those little tips on notes, I'm going to show you. I think I've got it here somewhere. I wasn't planning on showing you this. So these are my custom GPTs where you build a custom tool that does a specific job. So I've got one, I believe. Well, I know I've got one, but I've got a lot of them in here. One of the problems is it's not very helpful, easy to keep these organized. You end up with lots and lots and lots. but I've got a meeting notes generator, and I'll show you the prompt from it, and I'll share the prompt from it. It's easy to do. But the real science to it is it takes the transcript. I say, go look at the transcript and pull out, give me all of the quotes, all of the big things that were said, but give me it as a numbered list. And then what I'm able to do that numbered list, if I'm not going a bit too crazy for you here, let me find my meeting notes generator. What I'm able to do that, no, it's not letting me get to the bottom. It is there somewhere. Let me just see if I can find it via, did I save it over here in my AI or chat? There's a lot going on here, as you can see. Let's see. Meeting notes generator. There it is. Fantastic. Okay. What I'm able to do with that numbered list, when I get the results back, I can give it a transcript. I can get the results back. And then from there, what I'm able to do is say, yeah, make sure you don't include, give me a summary of all these things, but don't include point 12, 14, 15. They're not relevant. That was, that wasn't so relevant. These are the key things. So if I show you the instructions for that, oh, no. No, it's not created here. Okay. Oh, that's annoying. Do you know what? I'm going to record you a little 5 minutes, separate little video. I will share that with you. I'll go through this meeting notes generator because we're pushed for time anyway, like most of my webinars. I'll do that later today. I'll make sure that's shared out to you. And I'll show you how you can build your own tool, or it could just be your own little prompt for meeting notes. And it's really good at dissecting a transcript and getting that transcript to like show the key things. And if you did an interview of a candidate, you could do the same thing where you say like, you could ask it to like give you the quotes from what the candidate said around these key things, et cetera, et cetera. So let me work through that as well. I'm probably going to build you 2 prompts, one for like the candidate meeting, one for the hiring manager meeting. I've got a very busy afternoon, but I'm going to do that because, I'm committed to giving you this value, guys. And I want to make sure you can execute it. And I don't think you're going to be able to do much apart from know what's possible if you're very good at visualizing things based on what I've showed you in the last minute or 2 days. Like, yeah, he's got a meeting notes generator, but I couldn't even see it. So let me show you that properly. But high quality notes, they're absolutely attainable and they can really make you look good. Some of you might use tools like MetaView, which I know is very good. Let me show you MetaView. I said I wasn't going to talk much about AI today. God, I'm not doing very well on that. But MetaView is a tool I would recommend, but there's a cost to it. And it's got a very good note taker tool where it will join you in the meeting, but it's built for recruitment. So it can, know you're talking with a hiring manager, know you're talking with a candidate, gather the right notes and provide all that to you. Yeah. So it gives all that. So that's really good. Chloe's saying, Read AI is amazing for training alongside looks at inclusive language too. Okay, cool. So do you use Read AI then for interview notes? Is that what you're saying? For interview transcriptions, that side of things. I think that maybe what Chloe's saying. And Firefly is good for interview notes. And you're saying, yeah, so Firefly is completely free. So there's no reason you shouldn't be having a tool that does the transcript. But what I'm suggesting is, if you take the transcript out and you just get the transcript and you use your own prompt, I'll show you my approach, and you might be able to get a better use case. But like MetaView's got it very specifically built for recruitment, so that's pretty good. Firefly may have like may understand. You may be able to say, can I have the recruitment summary, and maybe it works out through that, but I suspect it's more of a general summary, so we'll get it nailed on for you and show you my prompts. We'll see if that adds value to you, but I'll share that with you as well. But yeah, please keep the comments coming, they're great. And then last piece of research here, managers who accept recommendations often do so because they recognize the recruiter's greater expertise. That's where we want to be, and that's one of the things I'm definitely going to help you with today. Okay, so starting with the end in mind. So we want a structured approach. It's like anyone, if you come onto my webinar today and I was like, a bit like that meeting notes generator, because I just decided to show you that last minute, and I'm like, oh, it's here somewhere. If you're organized and you're running the meeting, then clearly that builds trust and confidence and expertise. And even if you feel like a bit like an imposter, like maybe it's your first recruitment job, maybe it's your first time working in the pharmaceutical industry, whatever it is there that might undermine your confidence, you have to just fake it till you make it. And one of the best ways of none of us are faking it, as an example, I talk about being an AI expert. There aren't that many AI experts in the world. It's very new and it's a very vague phrase. So, you've just got to have the confidence and say, like, one of the ways I get my confidence is I have a process and I know that I can stick to that. I have a clear objective of what I'm trying to achieve. And I start by explaining that to my managers. And a lot of this stuff, I'm going to keep harboring on AI. Have that conversation with AI. go in and go like, here's my process. What am I missing? Because it's the thing about ChatGPT or Copilot or whatever you're using, Gemini, Claude, it doesn't know the best answer, but it will give you lots of good quality ideas. Yeah. So if you say, here's my process, could you improve it? It'll probably suggest 2 or 3 things, and you might go, yeah, I like one of those. Yeah. And you will improve it. So always keep using AI to improve these things. Now, this is the one that some of you, this comes in with time. So if you're new to recruitment, then, your knowledge is going to be limited. And I always say to people, you can get 80% of the knowledge quite quickly, particularly from things like AI. But the last 20%, that comes from experience. And it's the same if you're a new industry. Yeah. So I use the example of pharmaceutical. If I was given like a pharmaceutical regulations, vacancy, I've never recruited for pharmaceutical before. I could use AI to, what's this? How does this mean? Explain this concept. What does this mean? I could explain it to me like I'm a 12-year-old. It would give me everything I need broadly, but I still wouldn't know the extra things around it. I still, wouldn't know perhaps how challenging it is to recruit for, or who the best companies are to recruit this from, and things like that. Okay. And then hopefully you're going to deliver on promises, demonstrate your expertise. So whatever you said, you said, this is what I'm going to do next. Tomorrow I'll give you this, and then we'll do this. We'll have the advert live by this date, because you've got your process nailed down. That builds trust. And obviously, then hopefully at the top end of this pyramid, they're fully engaged and they're open to you guiding them. Yeah. Because there's very few scenarios where the hiring manager knows more about recruiting this vacancy than you do. Even if they've been part of the recruiting process on this vacancy for like several years, they have not been writing the advert. They have only been talking to the candidates at the end of the process, not all of the candidates coming in. So if, for example, a whole bunch of candidates were being screened out because there was a problem in the project previously, those hiring managers weren't seeing those candidates. So they've got no visibility to know, oh yeah, they're really good. So their vision of what goes on in recruitment is always going to be limited, not being rude to hiring managers. It's just what it is. They're great at what they do. Yeah. And you're great at what you do. Look at that, inspiring words. Okay, so start with end in mind. Let's arrange a meeting and a meeting/call with the relevant hiring manager. As I mentioned, I think we'd probably prefer this to happen via Teams or Zoom or whatever you use, if possible. If you don't do it face to face, it's a bit weird, but you can. There's a picture of my dog on my phone there. Look how you can just bring your phone along and use, a transcription service on your phone. Like I've got Otter.ai on my phone, and just go, can I just record this and we can just talk? It keeps me present in the meeting. I'm focused on what you're saying, not having to take detailed notes. So these things can work. It maybe people feel a little bit less, oh God, everything's been said, Okay, so let's think about this. Establish clear objectives, understand the hiring needs. This is pretty straightforward, but make sure that right candidate profile is targeted. If you've got the role in advance, I quite often, and typically, it might be that you're working from a blank sheet of paper. All you know is that manager's got a vacancy. It's called this. Sometimes, you've got the advert from last time, or maybe there's a person spec, and you just got to go talk about the project. If that's the case, then the more you've got, you've been onto LinkedIn, you don't have to start messaging people, but you've got some profiles. You've got like, oh, here's this. You've made links to certain profiles, because the more you can talk about real candidates, I think the greater the more you unlock what's going on with this role and what you really need. Yeah, you can set the communication expectations, when they're going to hear back, etc., etc. When obviously that's you saying this is really important. Let me get rid of this for the time, but you saying to them, okay, so I'm going to do A, B, and C, and D. I then need the following from you. And, I can't tell you what that is, because it depends on, how your organization works, how fast you recruit, things like this, how strong and confident you are to demand from a manager. But you're saying, I would need to know, we'd need to know that if I get applications across to you, as per our conversation, I'm not going to send you 30 plus applicants. I'm going to be sending you less than 10, or whatever your expectations are. I'll do the shortlisting. If that's how it works, I'll do the shortlisting. I'm going to send you less than 10. However, I will have spoken to all of them, or whatever you're going to do. I need you to, review them and let me know, whether they're going to be suitable, whether you've got any follow-up questions within 48 hours, within 2 working days, whatever you think is reasonable. Yeah. But you need to set those expectations. Yeah, and then define those clear benchmarks. So you've got those measurements, 48 hours, right? And our aim is to see if we can get this whole thing done within X minute time. That's always dependent on the right applicants coming through. You don't want to be too focused on a KPI, and you end up doing, you might end up hiring the very best applicant available who might not be suitable for the role. So you've always got to have those standards anyway. This isn't going shopping at the supermarket, as I'm pretty sure you guys understand. It isn't that straightforward. It is challenging to recruit people, and depending on the role, can be super challenging. Okay, so how to conduct this professional new vacancy briefing. So pre-meeting research, this is really important because we want you to be the expert. So what can you do pre-meeting? So let's think about it. Salary benchmark, an obvious one, skills and experience availability, and, competition for these skills and experience. Now, the first one, easy to do. So I have got ChatGPT salary benchmark tool. Of course there is. So I can just come along here. If somebody wants to throw in, give me a job title and on the chat and a location. Maybe there's a role on your website, whatever. I can just anything you're thinking of, something that what the salaries might be typically. Marketing manager, Budapest. Yeah, okay, Lydia. Maybe let me know what sort of sector. Oh, we've got loads now coming in. What sector? What industry is this marketing manager working in? Okay, IT. Okay. I can throw this in. It's got some instructions behind it. I'll show you the instructions. It does one job. It searches through a bunch of websites. Now, this is only going to give me advertised salaries. Okay. It's not telling me what people are actually paid. So services like ADP, who run payroll, they have the information about who's been paid what. So in America, they tell you they've got surveys that come out and say, like, whether wages are growing faster than inflation. And ADP does their own market survey because they know what people are getting paid. And this is simply saying this is what companies are advertising at. Yeah. So I have no idea because I don't know the Budapest market. I don't know the currency. So I don't know how well that works. I'm going to try. So Lilia, if I'm saying your name right, you can let me know whether that sounds at all right. Let me just throw in, it's got a few other notes on it. Let me just throw in a new one. I'm going to go new chat. No, I need to go new chat up here. Sorry, new chat. So I don't want it to be polluted by the last result. Do you see what I'm saying? So now it's nice and clean. I can say IT manager. Oh, Katie, do you want to let me know what sector this is in? Because, sector would be key. Level of experience. If I can give it a full job description, it works better. But, this goes okay. So let's just see what Katie says around this. And the answer is risk management engineering. Oh, that sounds interesting. I don't know how well it will do the risk management side, but let's just throw that in and see how well it deals with that. Done. Now we could talk further about it and say, like, show me examples of where you've drawn this from. So it will work from Indeed. And look, it shows you the links as well because I've asked it to do that. It's got 53 salaries it's worked it out against. You can go see how that works through. The number's pretty close to this, says. Okay. Also depends on seniority. Yeah, of course it is. We didn't really tell it much on that. Okay. Now, the other thing you could do on this, by the way, you could then go, now this is, no, you can't do it on here actually, but you could have a prompt where you go into AI and you say, deep research, I want you to find adverts that do this, that do this, that do this, but I only want you to, let me just try this and I'll let it run in the background. I need to do some detailed salary benchmarking. I want you to find live or recent adverts for operations managers in the Preston and the general Northwest area, ideally in the risk management engineering space. And they need to be like senior level. They need to be at least 10 years experience within that. And it needs to be a combination of some element of risk management as well as engineering if possible. So can you go away and do a deep dive on that and see how you get on? So I use a lot of voice. I've just stopped talking now, taking my fingers. It'll drop the voice in there. I've done research. I'll let it go away. Everyone on ChatGPT can use this. It's completely free. If you go on a paid version, it does more deeper dive. It normally asks me a few extra things, permanent roles, just to make sure it knows off. So I don't have a salary range, only focus on permanent roles. I want you to prioritize the engineering industry or risk management and engineering industry. And yeah, company careers pages, job boards. Make sure when you bring it back, you're showing me like examples of what you've seen where, so I can track and check that they're the right type of companies that are similar to us. Notice how I'm always using voice. If you haven't seen my webinars before, I always use voice. It's much faster for me. I get more context given to it, and I can crack on with the webinar, which is what I'm going to do now. So I'm going to move that out of the way. That's just a couple of things on salary benchmark. So I will share with you, it's in the notes, my salary benchmarking tool. You can go play with it. I'll share with you the prompt for it as well, so you can go build your own. And then obviously manually, you can just go to these websites, and you can put in your own thing. However, my salary benchmark tool goes out to those things already and does that work. I would suggest the salary benchmark tool does a good, nice overview. Yeah, like Lydia said, it got close. I would suggest the deep research prompt that I've ran there works even better. Yeah, because it's going to bring you back exact examples. Yeah. With deep research as well, if you've got the context to say, maybe you might have a paragraph of text saying, this is what our company does. Here are our competitors. Here's who are not our competitors. We're often confused with this type of company. So if you had all that information laid out and then you fed, cut and paste it and you dropped it in as like you had a deep research prompt, if that makes sense. If it doesn't, let me know. If you had a deep research prompt, then I would throw that in. I think that could work really well as well. Okay. Okay. So let's move on and go from here. Right. So next up, skills. How do you evaluate the skills that are available? So if someone's saying, I want, operations manager with risk management experience, which I would imagine is a little bit niche, Katie. How do I know that that's available? Well, you can go to sites like Indeed, LinkedIn's Talent Insights tool, which I'm not going to be able to show you, though. I've got screenshots to show you. We have LinkedIn recruiter accounts here. If you want a paid LinkedIn recruiter accounts, you can actually use their tool. And what their tool does, if I've got some screenshots here to show you, you can put in a search and say, I'm looking for accountants in Milton Keynes, and it must have this skill and things like that. And you can drill down further into it. And instead of like you're probably used to on LinkedIn, where it shows you profiles, what it's showing you here is data. It's saying, okay, well, what it has both sides of the equation to a degree. Yeah, on one side, it's got lots and lots of experienced professionals with their profiles. Yeah. And it can tell you, they know whether that person's moved on recently. They know that whether they're male or female for the most part. They don't know anything more about ethnicity, and they don't cover that. They just go into male and female. But they also have their own job data, which is also useful. But it's, there'll be plenty of jobs whereby that type of job isn't advertised on LinkedIn. So maybe when they try and show you, as they're showing you here, like number of jobs posted versus the number of professionals, and are things going up or down? What's the hiring demand like for that type of profile? It gives you a bit of an idea, and it also tells you who the top employers are. Okay, so a useful tool for this type of thing. I wouldn't go and buy LinkedIn recruiter accounts to get that tool. They used to try and sell this tool separately. They've given up trying to sell it separately now. They now just bolt it on to LinkedIn recruiter account. But plenty of people who have the LinkedIn recruiter account, which costs £4,000 or £5,000, don't actually use LinkedIn Talent Insights, and it is useful. If I was using it with managers, I would go in, I would take screenshots, and I would show, or I would go live with my manager and have the laptop there and say, look, I've done some research here. We can see this, we can see that. You are definitely now looking like an expert. Yeah. If you said, I've done a deep research analysis with using ChatGPT, it went away, took 20 minutes to go do real deep research and pulled back this information. It found these adverts for me. I've then checked them. Here's what I think. So here's some market analysis of what we've seen. I think that makes you look an expert as well. And it gets a good conversation because someone goes, oh yeah, they're after that. Oh yeah, we'd need that skill, or we'd need that qualification. So it does also help with this triggering to unlock what's in the hiring manager's head to get it out down onto the actual job advert and person spec. Okay. So we're not going to go live with skills availability review because I'd need access to my LinkedIn recruiter account. But I think you can there's more you can do across. You can see all these touch points here, and there's different types of searches you can do. So there is more you can do in that space, but that is something we can do. If you're interested in that, if you need any market research done, you're welcome to reach out. Our agency team, we have an agency team here. They do help customers with that. They don't charge for it. Particularly if you're a customer to us, they'll help you with it and do a bit of research out of a project. And if you weren't a customer, they're probably just nice people. They might be able to help you out a bit. If you don't ask, you don't get. Okay, how to get hiring managers to help you on sourcing additional applicants. Okay, so what we want is these people fully engaged. Yeah, they might likely know people. Yeah, so we want to make it as easy as possible for them to just reach out. We're going to give them the tools to help them do that. Yeah, so they've got all the network that we might want to reach out to. Yeah, and this is going to work better where we make it nice and easy for them. Okay, so let me just show you that in really simple. I'm going to make it blindingly obvious, okay? So this is LinkedIn, obviously. You're fairly familiar with this. I'd hope so. Most of you should know how to search. If you don't know how to search for a candidate, then let's find our operations manager. Okay, let's go operations manager. You have to do something to be a search at the start to get this up. Now I can go people. So just people. And while I'm in the people, so you could save that link, by the way, make it a bit quicker. I will share this link with you when I'm done. And you'll tell me, imagine you're in this scenario, you're a hiring manager. You might be able to help Katie out and let Katie know whether you've got anyone in your network who could be a good fit for this role, because that's what we're saying. So I'm going to go, let's bring out some locations. So I've got to type in all the locations, which is a pain. That's how it works. You used to be on the LinkedIn Recruiter tool, you've got postcode search, things like that. So I'm just going to go Manchester area. And you can, as I type things in, you'll see this improve, Greater Manchester. And then I'm going to put in Preston, and I'm going to move on then because I need to get it. You would build that out. It works by postcodes. Get yourself a UK postcode map. Really simple to do that. You just type in UK postcode map. Google will help me out there. There's loads of them. You zoom in on it. You get all the postcodes here. You type them all in. Away you go. And then I'm going to come down here and I'm going to go. Scroll. Job title is, put it in speech marks, operations manager. Yeah, I could go or ops manager because maybe they got the short version, or no, actually probably better than that, more head of ops. But now I'm getting really into how to search LinkedIn. I've got a webinar that shows you that. So if you need help on that, I can send you my webinar. There's that. Right, and let's run that. Show results. Really basic search. Now the trick here. I can't see how many results I've got. I've got over 1,000. Good. I would also keywords up the top here. I could change that. I could put in risk now. Now it's looking for risk anywhere on their profile. That's gonna, and then it must be an operations manager. Okay, now we're getting a few. What's the number? We still got over 1,000. Good. First degree. That's the trick. What we've done now is I only have 3 people. So I can take that URL. I can put it on the chat to everyone. You can send that to your managers. Katie, you can take it, you can improve it. I'm no doubt you can improve it, improve out their locations. You might put in competitor companies, things like that. You might build 2 or 3 searches for the hiring manager, one for looking at competitors, one looking at skills, etc., etc. And all they've got to do is click on it and it will tell them whether they're a good fit. And guess what you do then? You also put in your instructions, this is what I need you to do next. There's no point in them saying, I'm connected to this person. I send you Koyeli's profile, you're not connected. Yeah, and they may have the relationship. So get them to send the message if they're a first degree connection. So you write out the message for them. Here's the message you might, if they're a good fit, here's the message you want to send. If you know them on a personal level, then maybe don't send them something else. But if if you're busy for time, you can use this message that I've drafted for you. So I've made it super easy. I've given you the link. I've given you the actual message. Can't make it any easier than that for our friends, the hiring managers, can we? Okay, so that's how we leverage the hiring manager's first degree network and also their team. Yeah, can everyone click on this link? Let me know if you got this. Don't forget, here's the cookie, because there is a little cookie on this little screenshot here. This is the cookie. We honor the employee referral scheme. If you find someone comes back, even if you pass on the profile for me, we'll use the employee referral scheme. Okay, Katie said, brilliant. I'll use this on the briefing today. I love it when people are putting this stuff into action. Thank you, guys. Okay, so then I've got some templates here that you could use. Yeah. I think it's great when someone's saying, I'm hiring within my team. Yeah. Now, the manager might be like, well, what's going to happen after that? You need to settle their nerves and say, look, if anyone comes back to you, just pass them on to me. Yeah, once they're engaged. So let me get their details down. Thanks, you've got their CV, whatever, we can pass it on to so-and-so. Great. And what you need to remind them is you're not looking for a recommendation. You're looking for a referral. The process will help you define whether this person's a great candidate or whether they're just okay, but you're not going to hire them. So the managers, because lots of managers and other staff will have people on their network, they have no idea, never worked with this person before. I'm not making a recommendation that they're brilliant, unless they know they're brilliant, in which case, please tell me what you've worked with in the past. But if they're just someone random that you connected to or they connect to you, fine. Just pass on the referral. The referral, not the recommendation. Okay, so you go. And then it's like, let me know if you'd like me to get my colleague who is handling this role to give you a call, or to get in touch. You can tailor that to how you want that to be. Okay, now setting standards for your interview process. Key attributes to an excellent interview experience: good, solid structure. We want to make sure it's fair, so everyone gets the consistent. Doesn't mean every interview has to be identical. People ask different questions. You go off into, you follow up various things, but you want to make sure the way you're assessing things, the opportunity you're giving to people to demonstrate their skills and experience, we want to make sure that's absolutely fair. We want to make sure it's engaging. So you don't want an interview. Let me give you an example. You don't want an interview where there's two hiring managers. One of them is asking all the questions. One of them is scribbling and making notes. Because one of them didn't say a single word, and someone, particularly when people are pressurized in interview situations, they might feel that, Dave was lovely, but Daphne didn't say a word to me. She seems very sort of, where you're almost getting like a yin and a yang. What is the real company here? Is it a lovely, friendly person, or is it like the person who just doesn't say anything and just sort of shakes your hand and walks out of the room, says good luck or whatever? So how you solve that? Question 1 is answered by Dave. Question 2 is answered by Daphne. They rotate the note taking. There's ways to solve this, so it's everyone gets a chance to talk and engage with the candidate. You're prepared. You've got your structure. You know what you're doing. You've got something like CV. And you're probing. Probing, as we said in the survey at the front, where we said fake candidates, too much AI assistance, what next week's webinar is going to be about. Well, probing is huge for that. Yeah. If I come in and say, I've done like the ChatGPT research. If I'm going for like a head of recruitment job at a pharmaceutical company and I've faked my experience of working at GSK or something, and then you probe me, go beyond what's on my CV. So how did you do that? And what were did you not find these regulations? How did you source that person? The probing will uncover the fraud. Yeah. And in some cases, it's maybe someone exaggerating, or it might not even be fraud. You probe and that person just simply says, I don't really I don't really know much more about that. I've just got this level of information and knowledge. So probing is super critical in this day and age. So it starts with training. Ideally, you should be training managers on how to conduct interviews. They shouldn't just be walking in, particularly, you hire managers from all these types of companies. They may have been on other training courses, or even worse than that, they've not been on a training course, but they've just seen how some other person done it, and they think, oh, that was brilliant, I'm going to use what they did. Yeah, they might use little techniques to add pressure and do things. It's like, hold on a second. We're a recruitment software company. I have corrected my colleagues this year because we have done an exercise for a recruitment consultant, and we always do an assessment. That will be in my notes in a second. We always do an assessment. One of the challenges coming out of it was, the person who did the PowerPoint assessment, PowerPoint demonstration, the PowerPoint wasn't very good. I was like, sorry, they've been a recruitment consultant. No part of their job is building a PowerPoint or demonstrating a PowerPoint to a customer. That's just not part of their job. Yeah, the PowerPoint was there for them to demonstrate their expertise and knowledge of a given recruitment project, recruitment vacancy, a campaign. So you need to make sure that everyone knows what they're focused on, the right things. You're scoring the right criteria. Yep. Yeah, past interviewing means confident interview with bad habits. Easy to have your own internal SLA. Know it. So you could say, like, this is our process. No one gets to interview candidates unless they've been through this training process. It could even be as simple as you have to have watched this video, that we've recorded, we put together, explaining how we set up the interviews, explaining what best practice is. Okay. Hope is not a hiring strategy. So interview template. We want to make a consistent, structured interview process. Everyone's got understanding of what their notes and time expectations are. Introduction, and you've just got your normal structure. Yeah. Wrap up process, these are key things. You should be giving this, in my mind, to your managers. As an organization, you should set this out and go like, how are we going to explain our organization? Do we go deep into the history? Do we go into our values? Whatever it is, do we go into our mission? You work through, how much time you're going to give to that, everything else. Yeah. What are you scoring against? And hopefully some good notes on what good looks like. Not going to be surprised when I say this. AI can help you build out this. Yeah. It will offer suggestions, but you would be heavily editing this. Whatever they give you, you'll be heavily editing. You won't just be taking what they give you. Yeah, there we go. Extra space, scores, notes, and feedback. Oh, there was one last one. Remind hiring managers all interview feedback might be shared with the interviewee. Everything you're noting down. If they say, oh, well, their breath stunk, fine. That might be a reason why you don't hire someone. Yeah, we could get deeper into that from a HR issue, but they need to be able to stand behind whatever they've given as their feedback onto those things. Like, yeah, the person had very poor personal hygiene. They're going to work in a front of house role for a high-end luxury goods store. That's going to be a problem. Yeah. Post-interview process. Let the junior members of the team give their opinion first. This is our wrap-up meeting. We want to avoid groupthink. If the most buoyant, knowledgeable, the owner, the manager, the head of the department speaks first, then other people might be inclined to turn this into, I don't want to get too political, a Donald Trump board meeting where everyone goes, yeah, you're right, yeah, what you said was brilliant. Yeah, no, I totally agree with what you said. Let the most junior people give their opinions first. They might surprise you, but you've also got that diversity of thought. A younger, less experienced person might have missed something, sure, but they might have seen something from a different experience. Also, there's a great training process. If they've missed something, you could there's a training opportunity for them later on for someone to say, well, it's funny you think that, because I've got some notes here and they did actually show evidence of that because they said this. Yeah, relying on scores and notes to shape opinions, recommendations. So one of the things is, this is the key thing, develop a high trust environment. So that meeting should be, and you set that out at the start of the meeting, remind everyone to say, look, anyone in this meeting can challenge anyone else. We're going to do it in a respectful way. So if you feel that someone's opinion or their specific score is not right, or you want just more explanation for it, please ask up. We are all here to hold each other to account, to make sure that this is a fair and inclusive process, and most importantly, we hire the best candidate. Yeah, and then it's, this is a very weird thing. Not too rigid. You don't have to hire the candidate with the highest score. You probably should be asking yourself, why are we not hiring the candidate with the highest score? Could be because you didn't have personal, I'm just staying on this slightly random thing now, personal hygiene on your list as one of the key criteria, but actually that's a red flag, and if the person doesn't have that representing you, it won't work for your organization. And I don't want to be rude to people with personal hygiene. It's unlikely to be a big factor in decision making, but for some organizations it would be, for some roles. So we're not too rigid. So you don't have to go with the highest scoring candidate as the person you offer. And then also, even if they are, however you decide who the best candidate is, are they actually good enough to be hired into that role? Because when you set out the project originally with a manager, and if you said, like, here is the absolute requirements, yeah, this person must be able to build rapport with every person they meet. And if they've been through that interview process, and then 3 out of the 5 people felt they were like, everyone felt like they were very competent, very experienced, but 3 out of the 5 people on that interview panel who met the person didn't feel like they did well building rapport, then they failed on an essential requirement. Yeah, this person probably is a little bit, doesn't quite have the enigmatic rapport building skills that you said at the start was an essential. Yeah, that could be that you rethink the role. It could be something technical. Could we rethink this role? Is there a way we can make it work in a different way? Or there might be sometimes you're willing to do that, but a lot of the time is red flag, red flag. They're simply not going to be a good fit. Okay. Coming up to the last section now. Let me know if you've got any questions, guys. I'm flying through this in a reasonable speed. Benchmarking your hiring manager's recruitment performance. So this is the survey that we use. It's a standardized survey. We use this within our applicant tracking system. So if an interview's booked, once a customer's got this turned on, if you come to interview a hireful ATS customer, we know your interview's at 2 o'clock. Later on that evening, before you've had feedback about whether whether you're a success or not, unless you were given that feedback in the interview, you would get this survey. It comes out from hireful. It says, hey, look, I saw you interviewing with like Heron Foods. Heron Foods asked us to reach out to you as a third party because they want to make sure they get good, solid feedback as to what their interview experience was. They want to make sure they're delivering an excellent, consistent, and fair and professional interview experience. Would you mind answering 5 questions? So then what happens here is these 5 questions get asked. You can borrow these to your own survey if you so wish. And then what happens is, because every organization is answering the same survey, you get your scores. You can drill down by different locations, departments, hiring managers, whatever else, and see what's going on. But you can also see the benchmark average score for each given question. Yeah. So you can start seeing how well are we showing up against, a typical, the other organizations that are interview surveying, which, I think the benchmark, because someone would rightly say, and we're very mindful of this, is candidates in interview mode, even though we said it's third party, it's anonymous, they give the feedback before they're probably rejected or moved to the next step. So we're trying to get the honest view. We're doing our best for it. But some candidates will still be like, I'm going to give everything a 10 perhaps, because I don't want to, maybe the person will get to see it and I don't want to rock the apple cart. We know that will be fudging these marks a bit, but if it's fudging it for you, it's fudging it for everyone else using that same survey pretty much. So it's probably the benchmark that's important, not 9.2. It's the fact that you're actually running below what other organizations are typically getting, because they're getting 9.6 for this question. Yeah. And when you dig into the feedback, it might be in that feedback that maybe you start to see a little snippets of, in this case, why your organization wasn't professional enough. What are you doing? Yeah. Or it could be you get it from the transcript of the interview. You're able to see and analyze that. Yeah. Now, it works both ways, because at the end of the recruitment process, you can give a survey to the hiring managers to say, look, we're surveying people involved in the interview process. We could include the recruiter and the HR person. So yeah, but also we're on the list as well. So you can, you get a survey about how well I did and how well my colleagues do in regards to recruitment. Did we deliver on time? Did we keep to our things? So you get that survey as well, and we start to get evaluated. So we just believe in feedback here. Feedback is a good thing. And as I mentioned, you can record the interview transcript. Yeah, that's really useful to call back on later on. Really important to explain to the candidate. I would email that out to the candidate as a separate thing in advance saying, this isn't, you can say yes or no to this. It doesn't really matter. But here are the benefits for us. It helps us to evaluate your performance and stay present in the meeting. It means that we're going to be fair, because when we do our consideration meeting at the end of it, the wrap-up meeting, we might want to refer back to the transcript to make sure we're actually not going by a feeling or a memory. We're looking at who actually said what and who demonstrated the best experience, etc., etc. But it also could be useful. You could find a way of summarizing that, or even sharing the transcript with the candidate and using that as a way of saying, look, you might find this useful to reflect on your answers as well, and improve how you're getting on with these future processes, because it can be a bit stressful. Okay, and then this is also really critical. This is another screenshot from our ATS. You should be looking through, how you improve managers is also thinking about the inclusivity and the fairness part. So you can be looking at things like, you can look at we have applicant to shortlisted ratio. Now that may be the recruiter doing the shortlisting. You can have the shortlisted to interview ratio, which might be what the hiring manager's making a decision on, who actually comes into interview. And then obviously what we also have here is the interview to offered data analysis. Okay, so that's quite interesting as well. You can sort of see what the ratios are, and we can break that down by ethnicity, by gender. So you can sort of see the ratios here. You need enough data. This isn't a very big data set here. You need enough data if you're going to make an action from it. So that's really cool as well. So you want to be reflecting on these things. Difficult to go to a manager and say, we think you've got a problem here, but it might be across the organization. You say, typically we do this. We're the interview ratio for female candidates versus male candidates is a bit tougher. We need to investigate why. So that can be a really interesting thing. You can also, I didn't cover this here, when you get the transcript from Fireflies or whatever else you're using, you can get the metrics as well. So you can record them for each interview. So you can say what percentage of talk time did the candidate have at this interview? So you can start to sort of see those things as well, which are quite interesting. And maybe that might reflect around how professional you are, or it might also show some of the gender diversity. Do you give female candidates as much time to talk? Are you mansplaining or whatever else? So lots you can do in this space. I need to take a breath. So let me know if there's any other questions, guys, because we are wrapping up here now. So key takeaways. do the prep work, maintain a professional approach with candidates and hiring managers. That's what we want. I mean, it sounds obvious, but it's that mindset when you walk into a meeting, when you walk into any conversation. It's going to sound a bit funny now. What hat are you wearing? You know, I am going to be professional. I need to be nice and calm. I might have just had an argument with my child, dropping them off at the school 20 minutes ago. I've just got here. I'm a bit rained on or whatever. No, I'm in professional mode. This is it. Let's make sure that I am, you know, Johnny or Jenny professional. And then really the last step is that gathering data. So I think that helps you to open up and expand conversations. Okay. It helps you have proper conversations with managers around, okay, right, this is what we're seeing it might just be all the managers together. So you're not picking on one of them. This is what we're seeing as a broad picture. We're thinking this is a bit of a challenge. Sometimes we're taking up too much of the time. The survey results suggest that we're not totally professional. So that means maybe the interview's not starting on time. You're leaving in reception for 10 minutes. So let's just make sure we all do a little bit better on that, guys, and we'll reflect back in 3 months and see whether these numbers have moved. Okay, cool. No results found, the LinkedIn link, because I'm based in Hungary. So Lily, yeah. Last thing to show you before I finish: salary benchmark results. So what do we get from our actual thing? It took 19 minutes. Looked at 117 different searches, 17 sources. Our report back was split and it gave me this report. So I might be able to download the report, I believe. Lots and lots going on here. Let me just see. Copy. Can I put it on the chat? Wow, this would be mad if I put it on the chat. There's, is that the whole? No, that's not the whole report. Didn't think so. So yeah, you can sort of see. It gave me this one here. Let me just cut and paste this through. It's not very easy to cut. Here's the copy. Right, so let me just drop this onto the chat. No, it's still giving me the wrong thing. Why is it? I failed to copy the clipboard. Right, let me just grab this. Doing it manually. Need to grab the links. Maybe this will be helpful for you, Katie. Maybe it won't, but it's useful for everyone else just to see this report. I'm going to copy it, put it onto the chat. I'll make sure we wrap that up as well, and we'll make sure we send it to you. I think it's too big to go onto the chat, unfortunately. I'll make sure we send that out in the notes as well, so you'll be able to see that and go from there. I'm going to try one last time, but I don't think it's playing ball. Yeah, it's nice. Too big to go onto the Zoom chat, but you can sort of get a bit of a view of it. It's got a couple of roles that are interesting or potentially interesting, and go from there. Right, guys, I have got 11 o'clock, so I am going to go. I couldn't, so thank you for that. I've got a couple of extra things to do for you. I will do those this afternoon, and we can go from there, okay? All right, thanks a lot, and good luck with managing hiring managers, and Merry Christmas. Cheers, guys. Bye.